Chapter 10 of Stories from God's Holy Book by Josephine Looney. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Maria Therese. Inside the Whale. Patricia held up a picture for Joe and Bobby to see. "This," she informed them, "is a whale. My daddy told me so last night, but he said a picture can't show how big they are." "How big is a whale, Joe?" demanded Bobby. "A whale is very big indeed," answered Joe. "Sometimes you see one longer than this room. In fact, there are some whales whose heads are as long as this room." Bobby's eyes went from one end of the room to the other. "Oh," was all he could say. "A whale has the biggest mouth of any animal in the world," Joe went on. "Once a monster of a whale was caught. It was stuffed and put on exhibition in the city of London. Do you know how large it was? 152 children could stand in its open mouth at one time. "It's a good thing it was only a stuffed whale," was Patricia's opinion. "It might have eaten them all up." "Do whales eat people?" asked Bobby. "There is a story in the Bible about that," replied Joe. "Would you like to hear it?" The two children took their places, one on each side of her, and prepared to listen. "Once upon a time," Joe began, "there lived in Palestine a man named Jonas. He was a prophet. Prophets were holy men that God told about things that were going to happen. So one day God told Jonas to go to a city called Nineveh. The people there did not know about God's law. They were very bad. 'Tell the people of Nineveh,' said God, 'that unless they stop being bad and are sorry for their sins, I will destroy their city.'" "Did the people of Nineveh know Jonas?" asked Patricia. "No," responded Joe. "They didn't know Jonas, and Jonas didn't know them. So he was afraid to go and tell them what God had said. Instead, he ran away." "He should have trusted God," said Bobby, "the way David did." "He was silly to run away," remarked Patricia, "because God is everywhere and sees everything." "Yes, you're both right," Joe replied. "But listen to what happened. Jonas got on a ship that was sailing to a distant land. He thought he could get away from God. But God raised a tempest at sea. The ship was tossed about on huge waves. The sailors were very much afraid. They prayed to their pagan gods to save them. They thought the storm had come up because someone on board had made these gods angry. But Jonas knew the one true God was causing the storm, because he was running away. He knew he had done wrong. He did not want the men to drown. So he told them that, if they would throw him into the sea, the storm would stop. At first they didn't believe him, but the storm grew worse, and the raging waters came up over the deck. So they picked Jonas up and threw him into the sea. At once the storm stopped. The sea became calm and smooth. When the sailors saw this, they all believed in the one true God. "What happened to Jonas?" asked Bobby. "God sent a whale to swallow him," Joe replied. "For 3 days and 3 nights he lived inside that whale. He was sorry he had disobeyed God. So he prayed from inside the whale. He had not trusted God before, but now he did trust Him with all his heart. God was pleased with this. He loves us to trust Him, especially when we are in trouble. So He made the whale cough Jonas up again. And can you guess where he landed?" "At Nineveh!" cried Bobby, hopping up and waving his hand as though he were at Sunday school. "That's a good guess, Bobby. Jonas landed on the shore near the city of Nineveh. This time he did not delay an instant. He hurried into the city. He stood in the center of the busy streets and cried out the words God had told him to say. 'In 40 days you wicked people will be destroyed.'" "Were the people angry?" asked Patricia. "No," replied Joe. "That is the good surprise in the story. The people believed Jonas. They were sorry and they were scared. The king said everyone must do penance to make up for their sins. So they all did." "What did God do then?" asked Bobby. "God saw they were truly sorry and would try to do better," Joe answered. "So He forgave them." "Was Jonas glad he had come?" Patricia wanted to know. "No, he wasn't," Joe replied. "He thought he had wasted his time in coming to Nineveh. He thought the city was going to be destroyed for its wickedness, and now God had not destroyed it. Jonas went outside the city and built a little shelter there. Then he sat down to watch what would happen. "What did happen?" inquired Patricia. "It was very hot, and Jonas was tired, so God made an ivy vine grow up and shade Jonas from the sun. Jonas was very glad to sit in the shade of the thick ivy leaves. He slept there that night. Early the next morning God sent a worm to eat the roots of the vine. The ivy dried up and died. The sun beat down on Jonas. A hot wind blew. He was very, very miserable." "Why did God do that?" Bobby questioned. "God did that to teach Jonas something," Joe explained. "He wanted Jonas to know that if people are truly sorry, He will always forgive them, no matter what they have done. He spoke to Jonas and said, 'You did not plant the vine, nor make it grow, yet you feel badly because it has died. Now, I made all these people in Nineveh. They sinned because they did not know my law. Surely you understand why I wished to save them.'" "It seems to me they were better friends of God than Jonas was," said Patricia. "I'm glad he had to stay inside the whale for so long." End of chapter 10.